What's going on, guys? Welcome to another beautiful day here in Hawaii. Got a few things I want to show you today. A couple of American-made knives today, actually, and something that you don't often see on my channel. This is a Spyderco knife. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you probably have not seen any Spyderco knives. That's because I'm not really a huge fan of them. Don't really like their style all that much. I'm just not that big on the hole in the blade style, but I decided to try this one out. I actually traded somebody for some Tucson knives so I could check this one out. This is the Spyderco Shaman, and the thing I liked about this knife was the fact that it's kind of a big knife, and I do like large size knives. And after checking out a clone of the PM2, I don't actually mind this compression lock system. It's actually kind of fun to fidget with. So I was looking at something, different from them that maybe I wouldn't mind their style so much. So I decided to check this one out. Now, this is not a clone. This is an actual Spyderco. This one is in CPM S30V. Got the coating on the blade. And this is the G10 handle version. Now, that being said, I am certainly not an expert in the world of Spyderco. There are plenty of people out there who know a lot more about them than me, but this one's not bad. I mean, it's as big as I was hoping it was going to be. I do like the fact that it kind of has this secondary forward grip to it, and then the regular grip in the back. It did come razor sharp. Now, this was a used knife. The guy that I traded with let me know that it was a user, but in pretty decent shape. So it is still pretty ridiculously sharp. He must have put an edge on it before he sent it over. I think the only thing is the tip was a little bit rounded on it, so it could still use maybe a little bit more love to get it back to razor sharp and piercing status. But not a bad knife overall. It's in pretty decent shape. I would say probably my biggest gripe about this knife, ergonomically and comfort-wise, is going to be the pocket clip on it. It's a pretty big pocket clip, and while it's easy enough to go in and out of the pocket, it's not very deep carry. It kind of sits out of your pocket. It's more a matter of the fact that it digs into your hand. This little point right here and this point right here, you can really feel them in the palm of your hand, and this grip right here, it just kind of digs right in there. So as far as being a hard-use knife, again, Spyderco is just not my favorite stuff out there. It's, there's plenty of people that love them. I'm just not one of them, but I did want to give this one a fair shake, and it's not bad. It's just not my favorite. So I don't know if this one will stay as a part of the collection or not, but I did want to check it out and kind of see what I thought about it here. There are, like I said, some things that I do like about it. The fact that this is kind of contoured here on the G10 going into the compression lock, I think is a big step comfort-wise over the PM2, and the rest of the handle is pretty comfortable. So if anything, I think putting one of the deep carry clips on this would probably help a lot, and that's something that if I was going to keep this knife, I would probably invest the 25 bucks in a different clip. The only other thing I noticed about this knife that kind of interesting, when I first got it, it was a little bit gritty, like it needed to be taken apart and cleaned, but I did oil it up in there. Now, this one is on bronze washers, I do believe. Any Spyderco guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I do believe it's on bronze washers. And once I put some lubricant in there, it does operate all right, opens and closes all right. The only thing I was noticing, though, is that since it does have the option for right and left, tip up, tip down carry, it leaves these holes for the other end open into the washer. So I noticed that there was a lot of junk and grit caught in there, just pocket lint and whatever, that is allowed to get in those holes and go all the way down and get stuck in the washer. So I'm not sure if any other guys do this, but if it were me, I would want to take 6 extra little screws and just fill these in so no junk and dirt can get caught in there. I think that would be an improvement on this knife as far as keeping it clean and keeping it operating right. But I don't know. That was just my thoughts on it. But again, this is the Spyderco Shaman. And moving on, I want to do some cold steel stuff. Now, I don't think I've ever actually shown any cold steel knives on this channel, but this is one. It actually belongs to my neighbor, and I happen to have it, so I figured I'd show it on the channel today. Now, this one is not USA made. I'll save those other two for next. This one is the cold steel Bushman, and this is the Bowie blade style. They also do make a, I think it's a, I don't know what you'd consider the other blade style. It looks like a spear basically, but this one is the Bowie blade, and it's an interesting knife design. Now, they wanted this thing to be, you know, similar to the African Bushmen who would go out with their spear and their, you know, their bow and arrow, and just, you know, something all-purpose in the bush. And cold steel, love them or hate them, they definitely like to cover all ranges of styles, and they make some of the craziest stuff out there, replicating original styles and designs. And some they get right, some are a big flop, but this one I think is kind of cool, actually. It's pretty comfortable just as a fixed blade knife, but it does give you the ability to stick a stick on here, a broom handle or pole or whatever, and turn this into a spear, turn it into, you know, kind of a distance knife at that point. It also can be used as a throwing knife or just carried as is. I've seen other people who have done this where they wrap it in like some hockey grip tape or something to give you some extra grip there or whatever, but kind of a multi-purpose fixed blade knife. It does come with this Securex sheath that has kind of a locking retention here, and then on the side of the sheath it does also come with a small fire steel. So it's their idea of a kind of a multi-purpose outdoor bushcraft knife. So that's number one in the cold steel department for today. The other ones I wanted to show you are the cold steel True Flight throwers. And you can see I have two of them, but they are a little bit different. Now, I've actually had this one for close to 20 years now, at least. I have had this knife for a really, really long time. And even before I realized that it was a throwing knife, to be honest with you, I thought it was just a fixed blade knife when I first got it years ago as a kid. It says Special Projects, Cold Steel USA, and it's a pretty substantial hunk of steel. I mean, you know, it wasn't until a couple years back when I realized it was a throwing knife, and I actually started throwing it and using it for that rather than just, you know, opening coconuts and whatnot with it. It throws pretty well. Now, you can throw this one in no spin pretty well. It's not the best for no spin as far as, you know, getting it to release off your finger here, just because of the way the handle's designed. There are definitely better knives out there for throwing no spin. It throws rotational a lot better. You can throw half spin with this pretty easily from the right distance. So I wanted to get another one because I saw one on eBay for a decent price and thought I was getting a second of the same knife. Now, when I asked the guy what it said stamped on the tang, he just said Cold Steel USA. I ended up getting it anyway, but looking at these two knives, these are the same model knife. This is, again, the True Flight thrower. But when you start to look at them, you can tell some definite differences from 20 years back to their newer production models. Not just the stamp on the tang here, but the actual thickness of the stock. I'll get them lined up here so you can see. They absolutely changed the dimensions of the blade and the stock. This one is very fat, almost all the way out to the tip, whereas this one tapers down quite a bit, starting pretty far back. And then the height of the grind here, you can see it in the sun, this one just has so much more meat to it. It's not even funny. So I'll give you the difference on these guys. And I actually haven't even weighed these, but see, the paracord wrap is the same, so hopefully it shouldn't change much weight-wise, but this guy weighs in at 9.06 ounces. So let me do that again. .06. This one weighs in at 7.98. So, as you can see, they have changed it quite a bit, and I've kind of discussed this with some of the guys on the Throwing Knife Facebook page, and yeah, they have changed their standards a little bit, cold steel wise. Now, again, as a company, I do like cold steel. I find them to be very interesting. I think the owner is crazy in a good way, and I like what they do. I like their stuff. I actually have 2 other ones that I'm gonna bring onto the channel that are very unique, but yeah, so I just want to show the difference between them. They both throw all right. I don't know which one I like to throw more. They both throw okay, so I'm not complaining. Just figured I'd show the difference in them. And I'm not sure if you can see it in the sunlight. This one still kind of has the coating on the blade. I don't know what this one even looked like originally, but I would actually like to take both of these and have them tested on the laser and see what the steel comes back at on both of them, because I have heard a lot of people say that it will break right here at this top hole for the paracord, and that, you know, if you throw it and it hits wrong into a substantially hard enough target, you can actually break it here at the tang. So these 2 have held up all right though. So anyway, those are the Cold Steel True Flight throwers. And last thing I wanted to show you today, Stasa23 did a video a couple days ago about strops, and I found it to be very interesting. It wasn't until a little while back that I actually started, you know, using a strop myself and realized how helpful and important it is to get a knife to that really incredibly level of razor sharp. So I ordered this on eBay. This is actually just a cheap paddle strop that I ordered from China, and it came with a little block of this green compound. This was not loaded like this when I got it, but thin piece of, I don't know, it looks to be maybe oak or some kind of hardwood. And then you can see the leather that they use on here. This was the grain side of the leather, and then this was the smooth side. It has actually started to come unglued a little bit. I need to re-glue it, but you can see the leather that they use is not very thick on here. It worked all right. I mean, it was a great introduction to me for, you know, realizing the importance of stropping, and it actually works just fine. I think I paid $5 for this strop with a little block of the green compound, so not a bad deal overall. But the other day I was at the thrift shop and I was looking at things that they had there, and I found this leather belt that is just natural leather. It was the right width, it was the right price. This thing was only $3, and I decided to make my own paddle strop out of it a couple days ago. So you can see I just took a block of 1x2, cut the belt down, cut 2 sections out of it. I put the grain side sticking out on one side, the smooth side on the other, glued it down to the wood with some wood glue, put a couple other pieces of wood on it, clamped it in a vise so it's nice and flat, nice and smooth, and this side will get loaded up with compound, or I might just leave this one as is and use a smooth side and a rough side as finishing strop. And I have enough here to make another one. I actually have one other belt that I found to make a little bit wider one. So really just wanted to let you guys know that if you need a strop, it can be made for, you know, $5 or less. It's really not that big of a deal to find the materials to make it. And this leather belt, it's pretty thick. I mean, it's definitely a much more substantial piece of leather than this one that you get from China, and you know, this thing's gonna hold up for a long time. It's pretty tough leather actually. So we'll try that one. And then the compound, found this at the hardware store. It's just green rouge. I think this was maybe $5 for this block, and when I got this one, it came with about this much, which has lasted me months, and I still have a big chunk of it. So I mean, you really don't need a whole lot of this stuff. Once you load the strop up, it does stay loaded. Can keep using it. If you need to kind of move it around, you just, let this warm up, and you can spread it back out a little bit and redistribute it. But that's what I've been using to keep my knife sharp, and this was my latest creation here. So did put a handle on it so you can hold it easily, and wanted to make it, you know, big enough that it's actually able to be worked with. So that's what I got for today. So I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different here today, and yeah, that's my video. So enjoy the rest of the day here in Hawaii. I'll catch you guys at the next video.